the cascade of events, the desertification, the drought first, then the glacial lake outburst floods, one after another. While we were managing them came the forest fires, and then this catastrophic monsoon flooding. Now Pakistan is no stranger to monsoon. We have systems for that. In fact, the south waits for the monsoon rains, for the croplands, right? So there's a cycle. That cycle is no more. And there is no question of anyone having planned for this. What I'm trying to say is, if there are seven times the amount of quantum of water pouring down from the sky in a biblical flood, we have not been able to plan for it. And we are still looking for the technology, the capacity, and the systems that allow us to save lives when there's a downpour from the sky, 7 times the average, relentlessly going on for weeks on end, in the south particularly, which has been wiped out. It's a flat, arid delta country, but it is half the breadbasket of Pakistan. So livelihoods, people, over 1,700 killed, all could not be saved. While we saw them on videos, you can imagine the tragedy that I'm speaking of. The scale and magnitude of the tragedy was such that our helicopters, which traditionally are used to save lives, they go and rescue people, search and rescue, done by helicopters. They were not able to rise up. They had to keep coming down. I was in one of them, because no birds can fly when the sky is pouring down buckets and buckets of water. More than an entire reservoir came down in my province of Sindh, which is now permanently transformed. It will not go back to what it was, because permanent lakes have formed. What you saw that Navy boat inland of, that was no lake, that was not the ocean. That was just highways and cropland and villages inundated. So at one time we had 1/3 of the country just covered by water. Schools, hospitals, homes, cropland, metal roads, and we have reduced the number of metal roads. It was initially 13,000 kilometers of metal roads. So the country was broken. And then we are now dealing with a parallel emergency, which is a health emergency that stems from waterborne diseases. Now the water is standing. Why? Because there were no culverts for it. It wasn't supposed to flow in that direction. This is entirely attributable to global warming, climate change, and the growing effects of, carbon emissions that we don't emit. So people were fairly angry, they were destitute, and they were living on the edge of a fragility, particularly women and children, of which 70% were impacted. Out of the 33, 70% were women and children living in acute peril. 6,500,000 women were in different stages of pregnancy, and we are going into a winter. We're going into a winter where at least half that 33 million are still in need. We are housing, sheltering, feeding, providing health facilities for 33 million. It is a Herculean task. No country can do it alone. And I want to say that no country has built a warning system or even a rescue system when the climate goes rogue on you. And when the Secretary General came, he said, I don't know, I've never seen anything like this. And yes, I think early warning is a human right, it's a fundamental right, because it obviously saves lives. And while you do that, I said, none of us know where the technology will come from to save lives in such weather. It is not weather, it was a monsoon on steroids. So I think that while we have strategies, we are very clear in Pakistan that we will now prioritize adaptation as much as we were focused on very aggressive nature positive solutions for mitigation. We're not big carbon emitters, even if we go to 100% renewable, which we really aim to reduce our own import bill of fossil fuels, it will make no difference to the global warming that is hitting us. That is why we are engaged in all multilateral forums. Do not hold our feet to the fire. Look within to see what common ground can be found to build structural reform of a system that is not working. The climate is broken. It is much further accelerated in terms of change and stress than our modeling had predicted, and I mean all our modeling. So 2030 is the decisive decade, not 2050 for us. By the time 2050 goes down, let me assure you, all the early warning systems will have been washed away. Most of ours were washed away and drowned. So we're going to have to think of the space warning systems. We have those naturally, everybody does, but it's not enough. It is never enough to deal with the level of scale, fury, and absolute anger with which the water comes down. I quite agree with the Secretary General, and I'm going to conclude because you're looking impatient, that we have fought nature for over 100 years. Nature is fighting back now. And countries, certainly developing countries, with not enough equity to mobilize for recovery. I mean, we're being told to unlock private finance, make bankable business projects. Fine. De-risk investments. Okay. The World Bank just told us it's going to cost $30 billion just to come out of the flood. And until 2030, their country report, which I had the honor to launch a few nights ago here at COP, tells us that it's going to cost us $348 billion to keep our head above water, that water, until 2030. That to me is an early warning that the international financial architecture is the thing that needs to be retooled and rewired. It is not meeting the needs of the climate-stressed 21st century. So I hope we can talk about that. Just like we will talk about climate finance. Thank you very much for your patience.